What's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Well, that was rough, guys. The Bulls had this game in their grasp, and then Damian Lee, of all people, hits a ridiculous game winner after Levine hit an incredible shot to take the lead with 5 seconds left to go. And the rest is history, and the Bulls are now 0-3 to start the season. I mean, the game was still bad all around, don't get me wrong. The second half was a lot better than the first, and this really goes for both teams. But, you know, this still wasn't a game that should inspire a lot of confidence for either the Bulls or the Warriors, for that matter. I mean, I think what, stood out to me the most from this game was actually how bad the Warriors are. I made a video right before the season started on my 5 bold predictions for the year, and one of them was the Warriors would miss the playoffs, and I actually got a lot of heat for that in the comments. And if the Warriors continue on this trend that they've played in their first 3 games, there is no way this team is making the playoffs in a stacked Western Conference. And I know Steph had a good game, he put up some great numbers, but even he doesn't quite look himself. Some sloppy ball movement, missing a lot of shots. Of course, he hit some big ones down the stretch. It's just, that's when it matters. But I'm almost wondering if it makes sense for the Warriors to continue to put mileage on this guy at his age for basically a lost season. They're definitely not winning a title, that's for sure. And I don't think the Warriors were going to be title contenders even before Clay got injured. After they lost Kevin Durant, that dynasty was all but over in my view, just because they've all aged and they lost one of the best players in the league. But anyway, I was honestly really surprised at how poorly this team is on offense. And I'm not trying to say the Bulls were any better or that they played incredible by any means, but both teams were bad. But I expected the Warriors to be a little better than this, given that they still have Steph Curry, the best shooter of all time, 2-time MVP. I just expected them to be a little bit better. And maybe, they'll turn things around. It's still very early in the season, obviously, but when you get blown out against the Nets and the Bucks and you barely eke out a win against a struggling Bulls team, it's not a good sign. Anyway, let's talk about the Bulls, though, because there were some positives from this game, and of course there were a lot of things that were not so great, namely the way they came out again. I did like the energy and pace at which they played in the second half, but the first half, again, players just didn't seem engaged. So many mistakes on offense. They had a total of 14 turnovers in just the first half, 24 turnovers for the entire game. There's just a lot of disconnect in how the players are working together and passing the ball and trying to play together on both offense and defense, and that just leads to a lot of mishaps on the court. Now, obviously, there were some good things from the game. On the Bulls front, Wendell Carter Jr. had a much better game. 22 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists on very efficient shooting, 8 for 9. He even made a 3-pointer, which was great to see. Markkanen had another solid night with 23 points on efficient shooting. He was 7 for 13, 4 for 7 from 3. Now, Markkanen did go down with an injury that forced him to miss the rest of the game. Shortly after the game, Billy Donovan did confirm that Markkanen had a calf contusion, so it doesn't sound super serious, but we'll see if that sidelines him for any games. I'll keep you posted on that. It would obviously have been nice to have Markkanen down the stretch. That might have changed the outcome of the game, but we'll never know. Coby White also had a much better game. There were a few mistakes he made here and there, particularly with some ill-advised shots down the stretch. There were just a couple times where, he would take these 3-point shots where there were a lot of players open, and I was just shouting no at the screen. Some of them he made, and some of them he didn't. But overall, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. I was pleased with his performance. Still a lot of work for him, to go, but again, he's still young. Levine also had a great game, 33 points, didn't shoot the ball particularly well from 3, but 33 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. That's a quality stat line. Now, he did have 7 of the Bulls' 24 turnovers, and some of them were pretty bad turnovers that really could have moved the game in the Bulls' favor, but you can't really fault Levine because he did carry the team into other areas. I would still like to see Levine get more guys involved, and I know it sounds like I'm always hard on Levine in my videos, but it's because I expect a lot out of him. He's our best player. I want him to be a franchise player that you build around. He still had a plus minus of -5, whereas Markkanen was plus 13 for the game. And I'm still just not seeing that yet from LaVine as being that franchise player, that #1 option on a title contending team. I do think he can get there, but I still just haven't seen it yet. Also, one of the other bigger issues from this game, which I know it sounds weird, but when a game ends as close as this one did, you got to look at free throw shooting. And I felt like, you know, the Bulls were missing a lot of free throws while I was watching the game. And then, you know, when I looked at the box score at the end of the game, I saw that they only shot 74% from the free throw line, missing a total of 8 free throws. And the Bulls really should have taken advantage of that, because the Warriors were getting into a lot of foul trouble. They were putting the Bulls in the bonus very early on for a good portion of the game. And, you know, it's just the little things like that the Bulls need to perfect if they want to win games. 8 missed free throws for a professional basketball team. You just got to hit your free throws. To me, that's unacceptable. Overall, this was a better game for the Bulls compared to the first two. Particularly, you know, there was a noticeable difference in the effort and energy on the court in the second half. The guys were playing well as a team and didn't look as lost as they did in the first 2 games. But obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done because they were not playing against a good team tonight. With the Bulls losing tonight too, to kind of go along with that, it's also hard to see how the beginning of their season is going to shape up, because they are playing against a lot of great teams over their next few games and really through the end of January. So my hope is that the Bulls will be able to somehow find the confidence within themselves to be able to eke out some wins in this very difficult schedule that they have coming up. Anyway, it was a tough first week for the Bulls. They fall to 0-3 to start the season. I'll come out with a weekly preview video for week 2 tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see a better outcome from the games this upcoming week. That's all I've got for you guys for now. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content if that interests you, and I will catch you guys in the next one.